Hi friends, this is Linda and I'm back with another video in my organization series. In my last video, I shared with you my full craft room tour, and today I want to share with you something that has been requested a ton from me, which is my stamp organization. I'm also sharing this as part of the Stretch Your Stamp series from Shoe Puff Creations, so I will link all of that below so you can go check out the other videos that are being shared today from Shuwen and other contributors on their stamp organization. So I want to start off by saying my stamp organization system is not perfect and I'm still working out the kinks, but I want to share with you what's working for me, what doesn't work, and what I'm tweaking along the way. So to start out, I have these two binders. These are my stamp organization binders. I've labeled them on the side, and I just picked these up on Amazon, and all the materials that I use, I'm going to link for you in the description box. Inside of these binders, I have all of my stamp organization system. What I need, or what you need to create these binders, is just the binder and then some simple dot grid paper, or any paper really, but I purchased this dot grid paper off Amazon. It's extremely cheap. It's fairly thin. I like the dot grid because it gives you some sort of structure while still being pretty much plain. You could just punch your own paper, but this is so much easier for me because it comes pre-punched. And this is just an A5 size binder, an A5 size paper, but you could really use any size. Okay, so this is the basic idea of how my stamp organization system works. All of my stamps get a label on them. You can see right here, I add a label and I have a code for that. Then in my binder, you can look up any theme of stamp and figure out what stamp that's on. So if you see these are animals and pets, if I want this icon here, I see the little code and I will go find that stamp in my stash, and that way I will know where that stamp is to use in my project. Okay, so I'm gonna go through in a lot more detail and show you how this exactly works. So first, I come up with some categories of stamps. So I have a lot of stamps, and when you first see this system, it looks like it must take forever to document this and to include all of my stamps in here. It does. It takes a really long time. So what I would suggest if you're looking at something like this is to start small. So maybe pick only a few categories that you really want to use, like alphas is a really good one to start with. Or anything that you think while you're creating, what is it that you're looking for? What stamps do you wish you knew that you had or how to find? For example, I often am looking for, the months. And so I have a category of months. So these are the categories that I use, and I'll go through them with you, but just know I have added to this list over the years. So I started with only a few categories, and then I've added a few as time goes on. So the two with yellow dots are my most recent additions, and I'll explain to you why I have them dotted in a moment, but you'll see I'm gonna go through my entire binder for you. Before we get to the categories though, then I have my list of all of my stamps. So I have my 3x4 stamps, my 4x6 stamps, and my 6x8 stamps. You can see I don't have my 2x3 stamps in here, and that's because I just have not gotten to putting them in here. But that also means I don't use them. And that is something that I need to work on. I need to work on getting all of my stamps into this system. This system is time consuming, but it is so worth it. And because it is so time consuming, it helps me think twice before buying new stamps and making sure that I don't already have stamps that I could use that are similar to the ones that I'm buying, because although there's always new products coming out, there are only so many stamps that you can use or that you need. And if you look at some of the new products, a lot of times they're going to have sentiments or similar icons to stamps that you might have purchased in the past if you've been buying a lot of stamps or if you have a lot of stamps. So this system helps you look in your stash and see, do I actually need this stamp? Is it something that I don't already have before buying it? So what I do is I generally organize my stamps by manufacturer, but I do also organize them into other categories. So for my 3x4 stamps, I have my alphabet, so my ABCs. And I really like having the alphabet stamps organized in that manner rather than by manufacturer, because when I'm looking to do text, which is the most common stamping that I do personally, I like having them all in one place. Yes, I'm going to use this binder to see which font I want, but it's really easy to find them when they're all together, because how they're organized in here is how I also store them. These are going to be stamps that are just maybe super basic things that I think I will reach for all the time, or from brands that I just don't purchase from that much, so they don't need their own category. These are my Ali Edwards ones. These are my Kelly Perky ones. And you can see I have space in here so that I can add more as I buy them. I type these pages up and I update them maybe once every few years. So I just updated these because I knew I was going to be filming this video. And my old ones were getting really full of me writing stuff in, and I was actually running out of space, which is why I knew I needed to make a new one. Kelly Perky has actually changed her brand to Paper Person. I'm still just using the KP tag because in my mind, I don't really feel a need to distinguish between her previous brand and her current brand. And then I have my 3x4 stamps continued on the back here. These are my story by the month stamps. I do have a story by the month subscription, so I have a lot of space here for that to grow. I also have these stamps organized by or labeled by the month and the year with a $sign in the front. So actually I should mention that all of my 3x4 stamps here have this little $sign icon in the front, and that's so that I know it's a 3x4 stamp. So if I just see the code $sign AE01, I know that is 3x4 because of that $sign code. I know it's Ali Edwards because of the AE code. And I know it's number 1, the first stamp that I'm going to find. So when I look in my stamp organization shelf, which I'll show you in a little bit, I know that that's going to be the first stamp in the Ali Edwards 3x4 section. My stories by the month ones, although those are from Ali Edwards, I store them separately from the other ones I purchased from her because I like those all together. And I actually store them, even though I put them in here in chronological order, I store all the January ones together, all the February together, because whenever I'm working on a specific month, I will just pull out that whole stack of stamps and that will help me use them. And then I have my Studio Calico 3x4s. A lot of these aren't in my system, so you can see them highlighted. If they are highlighted gray, that's because I put them in my stamp organization system before I added those 2 new categories, the yellow categories. So that means those ones are not on those 2 sheets. The yellow ones are on all of my sheets. And the ones that are not highlighted, I have not yet had the chance to put them into my binders. And that's totally okay. They're not all in here, but you know what? That just means that the ones that are the ones that I'm using. And eventually I will get them all in here, and I will talk about how I get them in here in a bit. But you can see I don't have many of the Studio Calico ones in here, and that's because I subscribed to the Studio Calico kits a long time ago prior to creating this system. So a lot of these stamps are from before I had this system. And then moving into my 4x6 stamps. Again, Studio Calico, Basics, Felicity Jane, Alphabet, so the ABCs, Plans. These are more planner type stamps. So those again are a mixture of brands, but I wanted to put them together because they're all planning related. Future Craft, which I don't have much room here because the company went out of business, unfortunately. Ali Edwards, and I have room to grow there. And then on the back, I have my story stamps, similar to the 3x4 stories by the month stamps. These ones are separate from the Ali Edwards ones because I have them all in order, and I actually have these numbers as SS for story stamp, and then the number is the number of the kit. So these are in order that they came out, with story stamp 1 is actually the first story kit, which was first. Story stamp 0 was the one prior to that. And these will just keep going up as I get them. I have acquired every single story stamp, which I know is a bit excessive, but I do use them. And because I have this system, I'm able to make sure that I'm using them. Everyday Explorers, and then Kelly Perky. And you can see here, when I updated these, I accidentally missed a whole bunch that I had in my stash, and I didn't put them on here. and I hand wrote them in later. And actually, I think that I missed highlighting them also. Yeah, I was supposed to highlight those through 22. So I'm just gonna do that right now because these ones are actually in my stash. And so you can see kind of what it looks like as I write them in. So I don't have to reprint this every time, but I have the space in here. And when I do finally run out of space, like maybe if I get too many story stamps, then I will reprint, but that won't be for a few years. And then moving into my 6x8s, and eventually I will make a 2x3 one as well. So you can see that there's no symbol in front of the 4x6 ones because to me that's kind of like the standard. So if there's no symbol, when I see the thing, so SS29, there's no symbol in the front, so I know that's a 4x6. For the 6x8 ones, I have an exclamation point because that to me signifies that it is a 6x8 stamp. Then I have my ABCs, Basics, Studio Calico, and Ali Edwards. I don't have as many 6x8 stamps. I have quite a few Studio Calico because I had done the 6x8, the story, what's it called? The stamp subscription from them for a while. So that's where I have a lot of those. But generally I don't buy 6x8 stamps very often except for the alphabets because I do love alphabet stamps. So that's my initial list of stamp sets. And you can see here, so this story stamp 85 right here, this is the Delight story stamp. So I'm gonna look on here and it is right here. It is not yet documented in because these stamps that I have on my desk right now are the ones that I'm currently working on putting into my system. Okay, so now moving into the bulk of my stamp organization system. So you can see these pages are pretty messy. They're not perfect, but what they do is I have the title at the top of what the section is, and these are in alphabetical order, listed like they are on here. So the very first one is active. And I have listed some other descriptive words on here so that when I am going through a stamp and want to make sure that I'm putting it in the right spot, I can get an idea of what I was thinking for that category. And I've listed some of those words out here. And then I just go through and I stamp my stamps on here and I label them. I always put the label right in the top left corner of where the stamp is. And then when I need a new page, I add a new page. Some of these sets I had started stamping on the back and I realized this paper I'm using is too thin for that because I'm using just black stays on ink in here. And that makes it like they shine through a little bit, which is fine because this is thin paper and this is not what I would use for scrapbooking. But this way I'm able to kind of see what all the stamps look like. And say I'm doing a page about going for a hike, I might pull out this page and look at all of the stamps that I have on here and say, you know what, this one looks really good, or this national park, I went to a national park, I want that stamp, and I'll know, oh, that is a $sign KP07, that means it's a 3x4 stamp from Kelly Perky, and it's number 7, so it's going to be the 7th stamp in Kelly Perky's little section in my stamp organizer. And so just moving on, here's my alphas. Surprisingly, they don't even fill up one page because for certain stamps, like for alphas, I only stamp the letter A. I have seen other people have stamped actual words out, but to me, I feel like the letter A is enough. A is a good letter. First of all, it's the first letter, but it's good because it's a good letter to see whether they have this style or this style, or you know what the style is. You can see if it's a capital or lowercase, and you can get a general sense for what that alpha looks like. And then if you're thinking, oh, you know, I might want this one, I can always go pull out that stamp set and look at the entire set before I decide whether or not I actually want to use it in my project. Ands plus ampersands. So this one, I have all of these types of shapes, and that went on to another page because of that and story stamp really taken up a bunch here. And that's where you can kind of use your discretion. So I know there's an and story stamp. I personally decided to stamp them all out on here because sometimes I'm just looking for an ampersand and I wanted to see all the options without having to pull that stamp out. But sometimes you might think, you know what, there's an entire stamp set on this theme. I don't need to stamp them all out here. I can stamp one and make a note so that if I'm looking for an ampersand, I can think, oh, there's way more on that and stamp set. I'm just gonna pull that one story stamp out. There's animals and pets, arrows, awesome, magic, great, joy. So with some of these like sentiment ones and things, this is one of the things that makes this so great that you're doing it yourself and it's not pre-done, is you can put on here what you would use. So say you're creating a page and you're looking for a sentiment that's about awesome or magic. What would you use? And look at your stamps when you're stamping them down and think, you don't need to be that strict about, maybe it has the word awesome on it, but maybe you wouldn't use it on a page that is awesome. Maybe it says, these shoes are awesome or something very specific. I don't think a stamp would ever be that specific about shoes, but then you might not want to put that on your awesome page. You might want to put that on a page about clothing or whatever your organization system is. You're going to put things. So here I put feeling joyful because that's a sentiment that I might use for something that is awesome. Some people might say, you know what, I'm only going to use that for a page about how I feel. And so maybe you would only put that one on the feeling page. Or here, awesome courage. That's a more specific sentiment. So maybe you would only want to put that on a page about braveness, which is coming up in here where I have a brave page. But I put it on here because that is something that I might forget I have. And if I'm creating a page about something that's awesome, that is a sentiment that I might want to use. Like great job, awesome courage. Those are sentiments I might use maybe for a page for my daughter about something that she did. So I'm just going, I keep that in mind while I'm stamping them out. Here's bad times, hard, bad day type of sentiments. And you can see here where I stamped on the back and I quit doing that because it doesn't work so well, but the ones that are already there are already there. I kind of have fun working them all in and trying to fit the stamps into the little holes on the page. Some people I've seen do stamp organization prefer to have them in a grid system rather than all over the place. I kind of like the way that this looks when you get a page all filled up with a bunch of different sentiments, but I could see it either way. So here's believe, trust, faith, hope. This one has a sticky note because this is where I am in adding in my current haul of stamps that I'm working through right now, which I will talk about that once we get through all of my pages. So I think that some of these you don't necessarily need me to talk through. So I'm going to put it on a little bit fast forward and so you can see all of the pages, but without this video being ridiculously long. Just popping on here again to say the numbers one, similar to the alphabets, I just stamp the highest number because I'm not going to stamp out the entire set. So I stamped out a 9 anytime that you have a 0 through 9 set. If it is a stamp set where once you get past 9, it's putting like a 10, then I will stamp the highest number so I can see that from here. Like here's a 31. I can see that that's a stamp set that goes 1 through 31 like that, rather than building your own numbers. I also have some where, for example, here there's a number 5. I know those only go up through 5. Here's a 4. They only go up through 4. So I can look at here, say I want to create a numbered list on my page, and I really like this sentiment, this stamp, but I know I can only go up through the number 4 if I'm going to use that one. And then here I have there's a little asterisk here, and I have that on other sections as well where I put a little asterisk. That means that it's not a set. So there's this 10 on this stamp. That's the only number there. There's not 1 through 10. There's just number 10. And you'll see that other places in here, for example, like the months one, I didn't stamp out all of the months. Whereas the months was like right here. Months. I didn't stamp out all of the months. I did when they were different, but I didn't do it for like, if there's a set, I'm trying to find some. For example, here, I just stamped the word January. There's a full set, but I put this little note here. An asterisk means there's not a full set. Some of them I did stamp out, like these ones. I stamped out every single one because in case I didn't get all the stamps, or like during the year I didn't have all the stamps yet. I kind of have considered redoing this one set, the months one, so that I don't stamp those out so many times, or maybe to bring the year out of it. But right now, I'm not worried about redoing these. There are some things that I wish I had done a little differently. I'm just going to keep going with it because it is still useful, even if it's not perfect. So those are all the categories in the binder. I use these binders for a number of things. The first, most obvious one is I use them when creating a page. So say I want to make a page and I really want to use the sentiment story. So I'm gonna look on here. I'm gonna see what category that'd be in. I have a category that specifically says story. That is in binder 2. So I'm gonna open up binder 2 and I'm going to go to the word story, which has a lot of pages because I have a lot of Ali Edwards stamps. And I have all of these options to pull from. So I'm gonna look through here and be able to choose something that is the size I want, the sentiment I want, that fits my page. Maybe I like this one, the story. That looks great. It has a $sign, so I know it's in my 3x4 stamps. It says December 19. So I know that's a stories by the month stamp from December of 2019. And I could pull that one out and use it on my page. So that is the most obvious way that I use this book. So when coming up with your categories that you are going to use, I would suggest thinking about how you scrapbook and what sentiments are you looking for. When I just did story right now, you might be someone who says, oh my God, I never look for the sentiment story. That is just not something that I use in my scrapbooking. That's fine, don't make that page. I think the most obvious ones that pretty much everyone's going to use, or the ones I use the most, are alphabets, numbers. I also use the days of the week. So I have week here with the days of the week. I use the months and the seasons a lot. I use food. Trying to think what other sentiments that I use a lot. I use the emotions, drinks. I use yes and no, quotes, quotation, conversation. I use ampersands and a lot of these. I mean, these are the categories that I came up with for me, so I'm going to use all of them. But some of these, you know, just might not make sense to you. Or for example, I have holidays. I put all of my holiday stamps together because I'm just not someone who scrapbooks holidays that much. I scrapbook everyday life. If you are someone who scrapbooks holidays a lot, you might want to break these out and have a birthday category and a Christmas category and an Easter category. For me, I just put them all together because I don't have that many stamps in that area and I don't scrapbook those topics as much. Instead, I have things like geotag, here, there, place as a specific category. So that works for me. The second way that I really use these binders is in buying new stamps. So say that Ali Edwards comes out with a new stamp release and this stamp right here is in her release. It's music, playlist, listening, tunes, songs. And I think, oh my goodness, I love this stamp. Before I buy it, I come and look at my stamp binder and I think, okay, well, where would I have something like this in here? And for me, I'm pretty sure that goes into entertainment, where I have movies, TV, games, music, electronics, because I put all of those together. So I'm gonna find entertainment in here, which is under E, right after emotions here. So here's entertainment. And I'm going to look on here and see. So I have not yet put this stamp set in here. I'm still working through it. And I'm gonna think, oh look, I have one right here that says listening. So I don't need this stamp. That is Allie's handwriting that says the word listening already. It's from a story stamp. I would be good. I don't need to buy this. Music, I already have that. I didn't need to buy that. So let's see, this little speaker, I already have one right here. So the play, I already have that right there. So you think, well, why did you buy this stamp? Well, I looked at here, I looked at which ones were on here, and I thought, okay, well, I have those ones already, but I don't have playlist, and I really wanted the playlist stamp, and I really liked this music right here. I have some music symbols, but I don't have that music staff that is on here. So I really wanted that. But that way I'm able to look and think twice before buying a stamp set, because you might originally think you love this stamp because you're like, I really want a stamp that says music. And then you look and you're like, I already have that. I don't need it. This says songs. Well, this says this song. So maybe I didn't need it for that purpose. I got it because I really wanted the playlist and I really wanted this music staff. But I was able to think critically about it before buying it. So I'm not just buying instantly, because I am checking my stamp binders to see if I actually need a stamp. The other way that these binders help me not buy so many stamps is because when I buy a stamp, I know I need to put it into my stamp organization system. So what I do is, as I buy new stamps, I stash them in an area in my craft room. And so right now, I actually have quite a few because I was on pretty big stamp buying spree. So you can see I have, and I hadn't worked on my stamp organization for a bit because I wasn't watching a lot of TV. And I'll explain that in a minute. So I have some story stamps here. I have got Begin, Delight, Glow, Currently, and Awesome, which are the most recent ones that came out. I have some Allie Edwards stamps here I picked up from a release. Some Kelly Perky ones I picked up from a release. I've got stories by the month, January, February, March, April, December from last year, an alphabet from Studio Calico, another Studio Calico kit, and this one is from Kelly Perky. And then I have some 3 6x8 stamps from Allie Edwards that I picked up. So these are all the stamp sets that I've picked up over the past few months, and you can see based on the stories by the month how many months it's been, or story stamps. This is 5 months worth of stamp purchases here. So what I do is I keep all of these outside of my stamp organization because they're new stamps. When I get new stamps in, I often want to use them and play with them, so I'm doing that. And then once I've gotten to the point where I have enough here and I'm ready to put them in to my organization, what I do is I will label them. And to label them, I will look in here at my list here. So say I got some new stories by the month in here. I'm going to just add them on here, the ones that I need to add in. And I'll just write, when the May comes in, $May 22, and I will label it. I create these labels on my typewriter. You could just create them on your computer. You could even handwrite them, but I do my typewriter because it's the easiest to just pull out really quickly and type 1 or 2 if I need only a few. And then I add them on with just clear tape, which is super simple. You just stick it right on there. And I could peel them off if I wanted to, but it's going to keep it kind of on there, and that way they're labeled. Once I've labeled all of my stamps, I will go through here and I will add all of the ones on here that I've labeled. So right now you can see there's quite a few ones. For example, here are my story stamps. I've got 84 through 88 that haven't been highlighted because they're right here. Those are the ones I'm working on right now. So I don't highlight them until I'm done. And then this will be my stack that I'm gonna go through and add to my binders. If I hadn't purchased so many stamps, so say there were only a few here, that would be when I would go back through here and pull out some of these stamps that are not in here. So maybe I would say, you know what, there's not a ton of stamps to work into my system right now. So I'm gonna pull out Studio Calico 1 through 10 from these 3x4s and put those in my binder right now. And that would be how I would work through back stamps. But this is a good amount of stamps to work through at once. And what I basically do is I work on these while I'm watching TV. So sometimes I will take them to the living room and watch a movie. Sometimes I will just watch TV in my craft room, and I just work on putting these stamps into my binder, one page at a time, while watching TV. It does take a while, but sometimes you have that time when you are just relaxing or watching TV or whatever it is that you're doing where you don't really feel like crafting, but you feel like getting something done. So a lot of my craft activities that I do are things like my stamp organization that don't really take brain power. I'm not really thinking, I'm not working hard at it. I'm just doing something with my hands. And I like to keep my hands busy all the time, even if I'm watching a movie. So I can get through, 2 hours worth of stamping during a movie. And I've made progress. I've enjoyed the movie, and I feel like I accomplished something during that time. So that's why this system works for me. If you are not someone who can do that, multitasking like that, then this system might not work for you, because this is something that takes up a ton of time, and you don't want to do something that is going to take so much time that you are not crafting. You should be spending your craft time actually making stuff. The organization part should be extra. However, to me, this makes my crafting so much more fun, and it makes me create more easily because I'm not spending forever digging through my stamp stash, and I'm actually using the stamps that I own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put you out and fast forward for a bit, and I'm going to work on adding these stamps to this system. I'm not going to finish them today, but I will do a little bit so you can just kind of get an idea of how this goes. So I am right now on Believe, Trust, Faith, because I've already done these pages. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and put you on fast forward and work on this. And then I will come back at the end and show you how I actually store my stamps. Okay, so I put you on super fast forward here. I believe this is 20 times speed, just so you can get an idea of how long this actually takes. And this segment is actually about, I think, an hour in real time. So basically what I did was I worked on adding stamps to my stamp organization while watching an episode of Bridgerton. And this is just kind of something I'll do every once in a while if I feel like watching a TV show and it gives me something to do with my hands. And you'll see kind of how I go through the stack of stamps I have and check them all for that category. I'll add them as needed and then label it and just keep moving through and see how many pages I get through until I'm ready to put it away for the next time. So I'm just going to put some music here and I'll pop back on later. Okay, so I just finished adding some stamps to my book. You can see I did not get these stamps fully in there. I have this little basket here, and this is where I keep the stamps I'm currently working through. And so I just stash them in here with some extra paper. I have a Stays On ink in here. I was using this one, but this one I leave on my desk for crafting. So I have one specifically for this, a stamp block and some pens. And I just stash this in my closet, my craft closet, because when I'm ready to work on this, if I want to move to the living room, I can just grab the stamp binder and this bin and a baby wipe and just go and take this to the couch or wherever it is that I'm going to work on it. So that's what I have for right now. Okay, so I'm just going to show you here quickly. This is on my craft desk. So I'll back up a little bit. This is my main crafting table here where I work and where I film my videos and where I do just most of my crafting. So right here to the side, I have where my stamps are stored. Up on this shelf here, you can see my 2 stamp binders right there that we just went through, Stamps 1 and Stamps 2. I also have a couple other binders for craft planning, and I will share those in a future video. Then I have my stamps. So my stamps are organized in this divider from stampandstorage.com, and I have a few more up there in a dragon box from IKEA. So I keep all of my stamps, I'll just bring out a few here, in stamp sleeves. These stamp sleeves you can purchase from Ali Edwards, Studio Calico, or Everyday Explorers, and I find that they're all pretty much the same. Some stamps from some brands do come in them, but I do really like these stamp sleeves for the 4x6 and the 6x8 stamps. The 3x4 ones don't fit in my divider very well when they are in these sleeves, which is why I have some of them in that dragon box. So these stamps have all of their codes on them, and they are in numerical order. So I am trying to film with one hand here, and they are in my organizer here. So these sets right here are my story stamps, and you can see I don't have any labels in here, and that's just because I know where they are. So these are story stamps. Starting right here in the back is story stamp 0, all the way up through the most recent one that is in here, which is story stamp 83. Now I do own more story stamps, the more recent ones, which are in my stamp organization bin that you just saw because I'm working to put them through here. Some of them also might be missing because I have them out for other reasons. But for example, if I'm just looking for a specific story stamp because I found it in my binder, I will know that these are in numerical order. I also have through here, I have these ones, which are my basics, my alphas. These are my Ali Edwards ones. Right here I have, I believe these are my Kelly Perky ones. And then here's my stories by the month. Those are Studio Calico. These are Studio Calico 6x8, my Alpha 6x8s, and my basics and Ali Edwards 6x8s. I do have a few more stamps up in my other organizer. I'll show you quickly up here. These are just some of the other ones, the Everyday Explorers and stuff that I don't use quite as frequently, and then that goes into my card organization. Ideally, I'd be able to fit all of my stamps in this one tray, but that's just not realistic with the amount of stamps I have acquired, and I don't feel like I'm going to stop acquiring new stamps, but I am trying to slow my purchasing of them so that I have a manageable stash. And I also make sure that I'm actually using the ones that I have. And here I have all of my 3x4 alphabets. And then I have my Ali Edwards 3x4s in here as well. These ones, I like this because I can just lift it up and pull it down to dig through rather than the larger storage that's there. And then I will bring you over here. And I do have this one little bin or basket that I keep on my desk. And these are just the stamps that I use more regularly. So I keep those in there. I also keep my stamp blocks in here that I use pretty frequently. And I keep my 2 rolling date stamps that I use. I have the date stamp and a time stamp. Otherwise, I don't really use rolling stamps. I do have some, but I'm just not someone that uses them. So that is how I store my stamps And I think I'm going to pop you back on the overhead camera and show you one last thing, and then that will be it. Okay, so the one last thing I wanted to show you was this binder. This is a 6x8 binder from Studio Calico. It's an old Studio Calico handbook, and I have it up on my shelf right next to my stamp organization binders. So I'm not really going to show you my ink organization because I just don't have that many inks, and I primarily use black StazOn, but I did organize some of my stamp inks in here on these little squares. I did this during the Stamp Day Live hosted by Laura Wanzik over at Ali Edwards, and I believe that class is still available. It's I think $5, and it was inspired me to do this, and Laura goes through some amazing ways on why this is useful, and I have used it since then, so I would recommend that class if you're interested in inks and how to organize them. But I have those swatched there. And then this is how I store my 2x3 stamps. So I have some of these divided page protectors that have the 3x4 pockets, and these are the old Studio Calico ones with the 2 rings. And these page protectors just aren't as nice quality as the ones now, but I didn't want to waste them or throw them away. But you could use newer nice page protectors, whatever you have. And I just put the 2x3 ones in here. So ideally, I will eventually label the 2x3 stamps and get those into my binder as well, and have this in here so that when I am looking for a stamp, this would be how I would store them. Unfortunately, I don't use these stamps right now, and I can see flipping through here, there's a lot of really nice stamps in here that I should use, and I just don't because I don't, because I forget about them because they're not in my binder organization system. And that's really the key for why I do this binder organization system, because it is just so useful and it keeps me using my stamps. If I didn't do this, a lot of my stamps would sit there and I would just never touch them. And that's just not ideal. I want to use my stamps or stop buying them. I think it's just very important to use the stuff that you own and not buy things just for the sake of buying them, but to buy them because you know you are going to use them. And having this system allows me to only buy things that I don't already own, something that's so similar that I will use the new piece. So I think that really covers it. I hope that this answered all of your questions about stamp organization and the way that I do it. I think one last thing I want to point out is this does not cover my digital stamps clearly, but I do have a lot of my stamps that I have in physical, I also have in digital, like the story stamps, the Stories by the Month stamps, and the Studio Calico stamp subscription stamps, and the Kelly Perky stamp subscription, the stamps that came from her subscription, because the digitals come with a lot of those, or I had them purchased or given to me separately. So I do have a lot of the digitals, so sometimes I will use this binder to think of a digital stamp I have, but generally my digital stamps are organized differently, and that would be a topic for a totally different video. But let me know if you had any questions about how I organize my physical stamps, how I use my stamp binders, or any other questions related to stamps or stamp organization. And I hope that you found this video useful. Thanks. Bye.